do is stare and guess who she might be. The system announces that Song's achievement in the Coliseum was 10 kills, putting him in first place. It was the first time anyone in the country had done that since Song's and Jin, so the news spread fast through forums and social media. Because of that, the stream shot up to 10,000 subscribers, with a peak of 4,000 viewers at once. Even the Sword King fan club, which wanted Sun Jihan to lose, ended up helping him. Soon, all that hate got turned toward Golden Light instead. At home, he's miserable, saying the internet is full of crazies. If this keeps up, he won't be able to do much, so from now on, he's joining Sun Jihan's side and becoming his fan. People even say streamer Golden Light has decided to become Sun Jihan's editor. He swears he'll turn him into the best Battletoad ever. Of course, nobody cared what Sun Jihan thought about it. Back home, his niece is stunned by what she just watched. She asks when her uncle got so strong. People online are saying it's pathetic because it looks like he's smurfing. He coolly says war has always been ruthless, but she scolds him for sounding way too old. Then she explains what smurfing is when a skilled player uses a beginner account to win easily. She says she really hopes that's what this is because otherwise it'd be seriously embarrassing. Putting that aside, she notices everyone wants to donate and asks why he has donations turned off. He says he just forgot to enable them. Then she asks, while she's sitting there anyway, what he thinks about setting a minimum donation amount. She points out that if people can donate any amount, non-stop alerts will pop up and ruin his focus mid-match. He agrees and suggests 10,000 GP, but she asks if he means $10,000. That's way too much. She hesitates on whether to go with his idea, but he has something more important on his mind. It's the epic mission he just got, the one telling him to find the Shadow Queen. No matter how much he thinks about it, he can't figure out how to spot her in that huge crowd. His niece asks if he wants help. She says he always makes that face when something goes wrong, and whenever he needs her, he can call, she'll always be there. He always says she looks like her mother, but right then she really does. Then he decides to see what his niece can really do. He tells her about the mission. He has to find the Shadow Queen in the Coliseum. She asks who that is, but he admits he doesn't know, and all he knows is that she was in the audience. She can only say these missions are really weird. Then she gets an idea. She'll watch the replay in slow motion and see if she can find her. He just wishes her luck. Even so, he feels a little guilty for dumping that on her. Finding the queen is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Still, he tells himself it's fine. Like Saya said, he can always ask her for help. Since he has some free time now, he decides to deal with what he had been putting off. He heads to the class space, and the system asks if he wants to add a class. Using the extra class slot he bought with the achievement points he'd saved, he can now take a second class. So he looks through the classes he still doesn't have, and decides to pick Mage. The system confirms his class change to Mage. He feels a new wave of power move through his heart, and he can tell it's different from Divine Power. He wonders if he should test the new class. The reason he picked Mage instead of Support is because of a special trait that only appears after having both classes. So he starts calling up that trait, a purple energy sphere, and says this is Force. Before his regression, he had once sat near Baron Williams, listening to him ramble while drunk. Baron had looked at Sung Jahan and said it was all such a shame. He asked how many times he was going to say that. Baron replied that if he had become a citizen earlier, he would have called him an American and been more careful around him. The protagonist realized that while drunk, Baron had let out things he'd kept buried for a long time. That day, he was saying some very strange things, including how he first gained Force. Senji asked if Force was a skill, and Baron said he'd never told anyone this before. It was actually a trait born when magical power and divine power fused perfectly. Of course, that fusion wasn't easy, but no one had even tried, since he was the only player with 2 classes. He said only he could do it because he had 2 status windows. That was the SS rank gift Baron Williams had been so proud of. MC asks if that's the only requirement, and Baron adds one more. You also need to be level 10. MC starts wondering if he should even be hearing this as a non-American. Baron shrugs it off. He says he never planned to tell anyone, but since he is the one with 2 classes, it doesn't matter anymore if others find out. For all his arrogance, Baron wasn't lying. The overwhelming power that lets someone seize a place is Force, and he was supposed to be the only one who could have it, but not anymore. As Force begins flowing into Sega's body, intense pain hits him. Now that he knows how to get it, he also has what he needs to try. This was the power that made Baron Williams #1, even though he could barely control it. And for what's coming next, the protagonist knows he needs it too. He tells himself he has to get it now. First, he pours all his divine power into his hands, then sends the magical power from his heart there and tries to fuse them into one. He can't let that power slip away, so he puts everything into controlling it. At one point, he thinks he's done it, but then an explosion blasts him back. He's thrown across the room and slams his head into the door, pain shooting through him. It failed. He realizes this isn't something brute force can control, and he still doesn't really understand how to handle it. He wonders if he needs more magical power, because after only one try, he's almost out. He also questions whether forcing everything into his hand makes any sense. He can't keep all that power there anyway. But then he thinks about storing it and notices something. Maybe you can't control power once it's already been released, but what if he keeps it inside his body? He decides to take the divine power from the upper elixir field and fuse it with the magical power in the middle elixir field, then guide both of them still clashing because they can't mix into the lower elixir field where martial power rests. It would be a perfect setup, wasting none of the three powers, and if he can combine them all like that, the result should be incredible. So he tries, and unbearable pain tears through his body as he screams. The system announces that he is attempting to integrate the three elixir fields. He keeps screaming while the system warns him that he has entered a state no player can endure. A life-threatening condition is detected. Meanwhile, his niece hears nothing, because she has headphones on. She only wonders if something happened to her uncle. What he's trying is called the union of the three elixir fields. He wants to gain force by combining divine power and magic, and Sunsong Jihan even brought martial power into it, trying the full union without meaning to. But the conditions for combining all three elixir fields were brutal, requiring perfect control over three different kinds of power. On top of that, each stat needed to be at least 100. If someone far below those conditions tried it, they could die. Yet somehow, MC is only suffering terrible pain. Then his niece finally notices a scream coming from her uncle's room. She runs over and asks if something's wrong, begging him to answer. But when she opens the door, she sees something strange, her eyes going wide as she calls out to him. He tells her he still doesn't understand it either. She asks if he was screaming because of a headache. He says yes, but then she demands to know how the pain suddenly vanished. He brushes it off as one of the mysteries of the human body, and she snaps at him saying she's being serious. A moment later, she apologizes, saying she didn't mean to get mad. Honestly, she was just really scared. She thought something bad had happened to him. Sarang realizes he hadn't thought about her feelings at all, and should have been more careful. She asks if he's really okay. He says he is and apologizes for worrying her. Then the girl wipes her tears. She wipes her tear away and says he doesn't need to worry. She's fine too, and she's just glad nothing happened to him. Then she gives him a light punch in the chest. After that, she says she's going back to searching for the Queen of Shadows, and he thanks her. To himself, he swears he can't let her see him that weak again. He admits the three elixir fields combination clearly failed. He still lacks experience and level. Still, when he thinks it over, he realizes it wasn't a total failure. This time, he can use a new kind of power. Holding a towel, he twists it using only mana and says he got what he wanted. His divine power and magic power merged and turned into the unique stat, strength. So even though the three-field fusion failed, combining those two worked and gave him strength. The link between all three elixir fields also stayed, even if only weakly. That makes him wonder if there's something unusual about his strength stat. He even asks if it had been like this from the start, and it's confirmed that the connection between the three elixir fields remained faintly active. Martial power and strength are now interacting and sharing points, which shocks him. That means if one of them goes up, the other rises too. He boosts martial power to 14 and strength increases with it. It's explained that strength rose because of the interaction between the elixir fields, and he grins, saying that's totally broken. He's already this strong with just strength alone, so he starts imagining how crazy he'd be if he fully combined all three elixir fields. Even so, he decides to forget that idea for now. If he tries again at his current level, he could actually die. Still, he got part of what he wanted, so he wonders if he should try casting a mage spell. He starts summoning fire, but he's told he doesn't have enough power. Disappointed, he stares at the tiny flame he managed to make, basically a lighter. All he can say is that it's kind of cute. Sometime later, morning comes and he wakes up. Sunlight hits his face as he notices it's already dawn. The system says his divine power has risen to 10, but from now on he can only absorb divine power from relics ranked C or higher. So the D rank and E rank items near him are useless now. He'd hoped they might still work, but no luck. Calling it stingy, he complains that he bought all that stuff with his own points. Now he's thinking of selling those secondhand items on the market. Then he asks C if she's awake yet. He wonders if she's still sleeping, but she's already up looking like a total zombie, and asks if her uncle is awake. He asks why she looks like that and tells her not to say she stayed up all night. She admits she was researching, lost track of time, and suddenly it was morning. He tells her she doesn't need to push herself so hard. Even then, she says it's fine because she found something useful, and he asks what it is. He asks if it's material about other races, and she says yes. People with appraisal-type gifts apparently make content about them. That makes him a little uneasy, and he asks if they're basically using their abilities for this, so she tells him to just watch the video. It's a replay from the game he plays, and as he watches, there's a dark elf sitting on a throne while the narrator talks about elves being the best. He quickly mutes it, saying the audio is creepy. C says both of the ones shown seem high-ranked, and since one is a dark elf, she wonders if someone with a queen-like title could match the Queen of Shadows. She asks what he thinks, and he says it makes sense and praises her for the good work, but she says it's still too early to be sure and wants to keep digging. Meanwhile, he thinks that Celestial Sir probably won't be uncovered that easily. She says tomorrow she'll start checking videos from overseas. He tells her she sounds like a pro, and she proudly says she can even make his videos look good with editing. He asks if she knows how to edit, and she says yes. She's not amazing, but she used to edit her father's videos as a hobby. That leaves him stunned. His thoughts turn to Seijin, and he wonders, did that man really abandon his own daughter? In his head, he curses Seijin as pathetic. Then he remembers what happened 2 days earlier. While they were with Park, Park said he thought he knew who the Sword King's woman was. Seijin asked who, and he answered, Ida Shizuru. He says she has the SS rank gift, beauty, and both of them are left completely shocked. The protagonist asks if that means Sejin fell for her ability itself. Park says the administration office honestly thinks that might be true, and it's the first time he's ever heard something like that. But Park warns that he needs to be careful too. Beauty is said to go beyond simple mind control, maybe even to the level of reshaping someone's mind. There were cases before where promising people suddenly left their country and went to Japan, and if that gift has no range limit, then there's no way to know when she might show up and steal their strongest people. After hearing that, he went looking into Beauty and Ito Shizuro, but found nothing. He figures Japan is blocking any information that might leak. For now, there's nothing he can do, so all he can do is follow Section Chief Park's warning and stay careful. He decides to prepare ahead of time just in case, because what Park said might be true. They may already be making their move. And right then, a very suspicious plane carrying cargo under Japan's name is landing in Korea, the Neo Self-Defense Force. And then C asks her uncle how much longer it'll take. She says they'll be late if they keep going like this, but he says he's ready and tells her to come on. Time to go welcome their guests. He heads to the 32nd floor. On the way, he asks if she's nervous. He tells her to relax, but she admits she's shaking a little. It's her first public appearance since her father's time. He says they just need to stay confident like they did in the last interview. If they don't do anything wrong, there's nothing to fear. She quietly agrees. As the elevator goes down, they reach the ground floor. He tells her most of the people there already know what they want to hear. Then someone says they'd been waiting for him. They add that everything he requested is prepared so they can begin. He thanks them and says to leave it in his hands if things are on track. Speaking with Park, Park says he was confused at first by the request he got. It was about holding an auction for the Sword King's collection, but now he thinks he understands the point. He asks if it's meant to draw in Japan, since the Self-Defense Force has a separate table there. The protagonist says exactly. That's why those auction items were chosen. Yan Saijin's Baronet Connector and Battle Record are perfect bait. Japan would definitely want Saijin's combat history. He goes on saying Japan will clearly want to get their hands on it, and depending on who shows up, that person may have to come with them. Whether Yan Saijin comes himself or not, people need to accept reality and use this chance to move forward. Hearing that, Park thinks about Sun Jin Han. Even though he's a player, he always seems to be thinking several steps ahead. The protagonist says this is their last chance to shape public opinion, then asks Park to have the reporters keep an eye on the new Self-Defense Force table. Just then, everyone notices Sia. Someone asks her to wait, but security says they can't go in there and tells them to stay back. The three turn around as a woman says she only needs a minute. They're relatives. Sia realizes it's her uncle and aunt. The woman asks if Sia is really okay. No matter how badly she needs money, is she sure she has to go through with this auction? What is she even doing? Then she turns on Sung, calls him a scumbag, and asks if he manipulated her. He clearly doesn't like that, but she keeps going, demanding how he dares sell someone else's things. Seong snaps back, asking who she's calling a scumbag. She remembers very well that they used her father's name to run scams until they got caught. There's a limit to how much they can look down on someone. She asks if they really think she's that easy to fool. She says she knows exactly why they're here. They want a cut of her father's fortune. Her aunt fires back, asking what she's talking about and how dare she speak that way. But Sie makes it clear, everything her father left belongs to her, and that woman has no right to argue about it. She asks security to remove them, saying they are no longer her family. Then she calls the protagonist to leave while the woman keeps throwing a fit as security drags them out. Seiya was fierce, and he tells her she did great. She says of course she did. When she does something, she does it right. Then Park says they've arrived and that they can talk later. The two of them step onto the stage. At once, everyone starts trying to take their picture. Then the questions begin. What's the reason for this auction, and why did he allow other countries to join? Is there a specific reason for that? Reporters press in, asking Safe if she was forced to donate the Sword Palace and hold this auction. They keep pushing. Have they given up on the Sword King coming back? What does she think about people treating his property like easy money? Then they turn to Song, asking for something exciting about his latest battle results. He just raises his hand. He uses his power and the cameras in front of him shatter. The reporters panic, wondering what just happened. Ignoring the noise, he cuts in. This is an auction, not a press conference. He asks for silence and starts. That was a pure power move. Song made it clear who's in charge. Then he says there are 3 items prepared for this auction. The first is Baron Williams' Reducer 99, the connector Seijin used, along with his full battle record. He adds that it also includes Seijin's self-analysis data, plus analysis gathered from top players in Korea and East Asia. That gets everyone talking. The Sword King's data is huge, and with Korea and Japan facing off soon, the analysis on other players matters too. The protagonist knows they won't want to miss this. He points out that high-level player analysis like this can't be found anywhere else. Then someone raises a hand and he pauses in surprise. 2 people are standing there. The older man introduces them as members of the Ring's self-defense force. He's the recruitment team manager, Takeda Kazuo. Since the auction has already begun, he asks if he can make an offer. Then he drops it, 5 billion yen for everything. On top of that, he tells MC he wants a private meeting with Seijin. MC already knows where this is going, so he apologizes, but says that won't be possible. If there's something to say, it can be said here. Right now, a private meeting isn't happening, and out of every country, Japan should understand that best. Takeda tells him not to glare like that. He gives a cold smile, saying he's only a guest and shouldn't be treated this way. Then that sly grin gets wider. He warns that if he keeps being so rude, someone may have to step in. At once, the young guard puts a sword to his chest. Takeda calmly says his shadow bodyguard may have to interfere. She may not be on the Sword King's level, but she's still an excellent player. Even with a blade at his neck, the protagonist doesn't flinch. Taega keeps speaking in a fake polite tone, telling him to be careful. Seong answers by lighting sacred power in his eyes and staring straight at her. Then he says she looks a lot like Seijin. That only makes things worse. He's furious for his brother-in-law. Then in the blink of an eye, a shadow moves in front of MC, and she draws her sword. He moves first and slams a punch into her chin, completely overpowering her. She stumbles back, realizing she messed up. Sir Jing asks if she still wants to keep going. He lifts his hand over her head, and real fear hits her. Calmly, he tells her to stop. She already did her best. She's shaking, and he reminds everyone that this auction is being streamed live worldwide on Baron's platform. Everyone can see this mess in real time. So does she really plan to pull a sword in front of the whole world? Takeda instantly acts innocent, saying there's no way he'd allow that. Then he claims his bodyguard simply went too far and apologizes for her. After that, he turns to Song and says there's something important to add first. With the 50 million, a private meeting is included. He says he'll hear Miss Yan's answer, throwing the choice onto the girl. After all, Miss Yan, the daughter, is the one who should inherit everything. Song admits that part is true, while Taka walks right past him and says Yan is the real beneficiary of this auction. Then he tells Song the offer for a private meeting is for her. Isn't she curious about how her father is doing? That clearly shakes her. The bastard keeps going, saying she can ask anything, and there's surely a lot he could tell her. So what's her answer? C hesitates, and Takeda is sure she won't refuse unless she's a total fool. But he's dead wrong. She rejects him on the spot, leaving everyone stunned. Even he can't believe it. He tells her to wait and asks if she's really throwing away that much money. $50 million. CI says, just like her uncle said, it's a tempting offer. But if the only way to learn about her father is through a deal, then she doesn't want it. She adds that she's still a minor, and her uncle is her guardian, so she's following his decision. That eases people a little. They were worried she might be taken to Japan. Still, some know they can't relax yet. Even if she refused the private meeting, the self-defense force could still throw more money at the auction. Meanwhile, that Italian mobster-looking guy is shocked she turned the offer down. Then Taika says the self-defense force will buy everything for 50 million, and nobody understands what he means. He explains that the private meeting was never part of the original plan. It was an extra option he added himself. Song is furious, realizing Taika was trying to play him. Taika says that from the start, he was ordered to bring 50 million from the Sword King himself. Then he presents the payment card and says there's also a personal letter for C from the Sword King. As far as he's concerned, the auction is over. But when C looks at it, she sees her father's name is now Taito Ryuhei. Taiga is surprised at how easily they got the Sword King's belongings. He even wonders if Baron William's Korean side could afford that much, while everyone around him silently curses him out. He comments that the auction ended way too fast. Sarong is boiling, but Takeda keeps talking. Before returning, he says the US government banned the head of the new defense recruitment team from entering the country because he made it too easy to recruit foreign players. People started calling him the Japanese calamity. Then he tells the protagonist they should sign the contract as soon as possible. MC thinks there's a chance this man is tied to the player Kyo Zudon, then answers yes while deciding he's someone to watch carefully. The mood turns awful. The auction ended so fast it almost feels rigged. If this keeps up, public opinion will flip on them. People are already wondering, 50 million right at the start? Then why invite everyone else at all? It looks staged. Seong knows they need a twist fast, but Seong starts reading the letter from her father. He says he heard she plans to donate the Sword Palace. He doesn't know why she made that choice, but he calls it a terrible one. He says this will be the last inheritance he ever gives her, and hopes she uses it well. With that, their father-daughter relationship is over. She shouldn't expect anything more from him. Saif says that's exactly what the letter says, and it's definitely her father's handwriting. That makes Saif furious all over again. He thinks about Beauty's power. This goes way beyond simple mind control. It rewrites people. Maybe that explains why Seishin truly came to hate him. But when it came to Saif, Seishin had been a good, trustworthy father. So seeing him drive the final nail into her like this is unforgivable. Sei tells Takeda to pass a message to Ito. She received the last inheritance just fine, and she'll gladly cut ties with him. Then she says he's right about one thing. Tearing up the letter would only bother the cleaning staff. But Sei tells her not to worry. He uses his power to pull the letter to his hand, saying he'll take care of it himself. Then he burns it with his bare hand, shocking everyone. They can't believe he just summoned fire. Wasn't he supposed to be a support type? Now they're thinking he fights like a warrior, has divine power, and can use magic too. Takeda starts staring at Sen. Now he wants him too. He says he is someone they absolutely need to get their hands on. At once, people rush toward the protagonist, asking if he's joined a guild yet and promising they'll do anything he wants if he considers them. MC tells them to hold on. If everyone rushes him at once, that's a problem. Things are still tense, and this is too much. Cease walks over to her uncle, and he apologizes to Sejim, asking if she can go ahead first while he handles things here. But she says no, that's not it. Her head suddenly starts hurting, then the pain gets worse, and she drops right in front of him. That completely freaks him out. He yells for her, then rushes over, catches her, and begs her to wake up. She slowly opens her eyes and speaks to her uncle. He asks if she's okay, and tells her to hold on a little longer. They'll take her to the hospital. But then she admits she was only acting. She says he looked stuck because of the crowd, so she stepped in to help. With that sly little act, everyone starts wondering how they're supposed to recruit them now. So she asks if she did well. He tells her she's just like her sister, then quickly apologizes. After that, he announces the event has to end here. His niece isn't feeling well and needs rest. He asks if she can walk, and she says yes. All she wants is to go home and sleep. But Takeda stops Soon Jihan and asks him to wait, apologizing if his presence caused trouble. He says they want to invite him to a formal meeting so they can get to know him better, and asks him to get in touch. The protagonist just uses his power to pull the card over. Then he calls it a joke, and tears it up. The shredded card falls right in front of him, and that destruction is his answer. Everyone is stunned. The recruiter from the fourth biggest guild just got rejected by a Korean bronze. Meanwhile, Takeda looks weirdly thrilled, thinking the protagonist really is the best. He even calls it an unknown power that can destroy business cards from that far away. To him, that skill alone makes Song incredibly valuable. He starts imagining just how far he can grow, realizing he's no ordinary bronze. He's the kind of rising star worth watching. That only makes Takeda want him even more, no matter what. At the same time, the two of them are feeling pretty pleased. She says she acted perfectly since he fell for it right away. When she asks if he's ever seen her do anything bad, he brings up the kitchen. That leaves her with no answer. Then he gets an unread system message. He checks it and sees Stacker Chan donated 10,000 GP, saying it was nice meeting him. He can't believe the guy donated that much while the stream was off. But what really gets her is how he writes like a total psycho. The protagonist wonders why his first donation had to be from that guy and says he's blocking him. Then Hyeon shows up and calls out to Sung Se, and both sides just stare at each other, a little confused. She introduces herself as Lee Hyeon, director of the 3rd PR division of the Twin Stars Guild. She says she came because she really wanted to meet them in person, and apologizes for showing up out of nowhere. But the protagonist remembers no one should be able to get in here. He asks how she managed it, and her voice sounds strangely familiar too. She explains that she has good connections with people in the Korean Baron administration, so she used those ties. She adds that she's famous in her guild for knowing everybody. Hearing that shameless confidence, he starts remembering her. He's sure they've met before. Then she asks if they can get straight to the point and starts talking about Song Jahan's match prediction. That's when it clicks. She's someone he met a long time ago, the one who said she'd always been a huge fan of him. He finally realizes who she is, someone from his past life. Seeing his face, Saya asks what's going on and why he looks so shocked. Habyun even starts wondering if her beauty broke his brain. Then he says that when the world is full of possibilities, it's hard to give them up. He explains it's a quote from Dostoevsky, a famous novelist known for being hooked on gambling. That catches both girls completely off guard. Then he asks if they like the quote. Geong immediately steps in front of Habyuna. She demands to know who he is and how he knows Habyun's motto. Only a small number of people know about her gambling problem, so how does this stranger know? Now the protagonist says he's sure of it. He calls her the first American manager, Zero, and says she's the other Korean besides him who fell hard into alcohol and gambling. Still, with her gift, Nurture, she became the guild master of the reserve team. Normally that gift boosts other people's experience, but after the tutorial it could raise other things too, like stats and gifts. He explains that she really took off once she started boosting everything a person had, and the person with that gift is her, Zero. Then he casually asks if she's been going to casinos. That hits a nerve. She tries to calm down and asks Geong to stop him already. The protagonist thinks about the Plum Blossom Sword and even Zero, realizing Twin Stars is doing really well. Then he says he met her in one of his early streams, and her message was one of the most memorable he ever got from a fan. He only brought it up to be sure and apologizes if he scared her. Geong asks if she's really been chatting in stream comments, and Hyeon turns bright red, telling her to shut up. She tries to recover and says it's not exactly great to be known as a gambling addict. He asks, known as one? You are one. Beside him, Sayo is shocked. Her uncle actually smiled, so she starts thinking he must like her. Hyeon says that's fine. Starting off with a lighter mood isn't bad, and for some reason it feels like they've met many times before. At the side, Saya gets all giddy and grabs her phone, convinced this woman likes her uncle. Then Hyeon brings up the Twin Stars Guild and asks what he thinks about meeting somewhere later. Once again, the girl gets excited, wondering if this is what gaining an aunt feels like. Meanwhile, Hyeon drifts into her own thoughts, convinced she looked very charming just now. She even tells Geong to pay attention and learn how well she handles men. Geong could not care less. Even so, Hyeon keeps thinking this is what experience looks like. Then the protagonist apologizes. He doesn't remember his number. That leaves both women stunned. He turns to Seowa and asks what his number is, and she can only think this is a terrible excuse. Then she starts wondering if he's trying to play hard to get, but he clearly isn't. He really doesn't remember his own number. So she figures this must be part of his plan and decides to help. She suddenly says she's getting dizzy again, but their teamwork is a mess, and he starts wondering if she actually just wants to go rest. So he says he'll go with her and starts to leave, saying his niece still isn't well. He adds that if she gives him her business card, he'll contact her later. She's too shocked to react much, so she just hands it over. As they leave, Seo happily thinks she won't have to worry about her uncle's love life anymore, while the protagonist has no clue what's going on. After that, Haewon turns to Im Gyeong, who looks ready to explode. Haewon tells her she can laugh, and the girl immediately bursts out. Since she's already mad, Haewon says she might as well laugh. Im Gyeong keeps cracking up and teasing her while Haewon complains that the girl is unbelievably clueless. Later, she asks her uncle if he knows what unexpected means. She says she never thought he'd use something her father used to do. He answers that she's getting bigger, and there's nothing he can do because her clothes are too short now. He also says they're good clothes, and she agrees he just has to look good in them. But then she tells him what he said earlier was just sad. He asks what she means, and she says that rejection line was way out of date. Who still uses the "you're the first one to reject me" move these days? She starts replaying the whole thing in her head and says acting hard to get was fine, but pretending not to know his own phone number was a really bad excuse. She says the only reason she saved him was because she's just that good, but he insists he really doesn't know it. Now she's not sure what to think and asks if he's serious. He just says yes. That makes things incredibly awkward. She even lowers her hand and says he's starting to show signs of Alzheimer's, while he thinks it's not like that. After that awful moment, he heads back to Q for bronze in Gangnam. This time, the mission is defense. He has to protect the crystal while surviving a zombie attack. He says he's tired, worn out from all of this and from trying to calm her down. Then she starts crying hard, saying she ruined her uncle's future love life, messed everything up, and is an idiot. He asks if she really thought he liked Lee. Why would he fall for someone addicted to gambling like her? Still, he admits to himself that he never expected to run into Zero like this. That makes him remember a time he met her while drinking. Back then, while watching a match, she started yelling at him, asking how someone as useless as Jahan could possibly win. Since both of them had quickly lost their home country, they became friends, and during breaks they'd go drink and gamble together all the time. They used to drink and bet all the time, and Zero was crazy about gambling. He reminds her that he already said Diego Masid would win, and she snaps, asking how some ancient gift called the God of Football can be this broken. He tells her to ignore the name and look at the rank. It's SS. She just says she'll win the next one. So he tells her to stop betting, but she cuts him off. She says when the world is full of possibilities, it's hard to let any of them go. Then she gets mad, saying he always says that when she loses, he asks if she's ever taking off that mask. She says never. Just like he said, it's the price she paid for making a deal with the devil. He explains that being naturalized wasn't the only thing they had in common. Then she calls Jahan over. She asks why he got so strong, saying that if he had been this strong back when Korea still existed, his friend wouldn't have died like that. He realizes the biggest thing they shared was guilt. She stops herself from saying more because she knows she's guilty too. To him, they also shared deep hatred. Both of them carried heavy guilt and anger for failing to protect the people who mattered most. That's why they ended up wearing the same bitter expression he still has now. He says that's what happened back then. Meanwhile, his chat starts blowing up with messages. A giant sword appears in his hand, and one viewer jokes that the thing is so huge it looks ready to come through the screen. It's the execution greatsword of Priest Urk. He says he wondered why a C-rank relic was so cheap, but now he gets it. It's way too big and heavy for a normal person to use, but to him it's perfect. He starts swinging it around with ease. He doesn't look like a mage or a support at all. While he casually handles the sword, everyone watching is shocked by his strength and says he has to be at gold level. Then they start begging for a status reveal. He wonders if he should show his status window. Then he slams the huge sword into the ground. He says more people are showing up, and now they're all asking for things. With around 12,000 subscribers, he says it's still too early to reveal it, but he probably can't keep ignoring them now. As he clears mission after mission, he wonders if he should just go straight in. Then he introduces himself to everyone as Sun Ji-han. He says a lot of people are curious about his status window, so he'll reveal it, but only after the channel hits 200,000 subscribers. It's a promise, and the viewers are disappointed since that won't happen anytime soon. But he adds one more thing. If he loses any match from now on, he'll reveal his status right away. To him, that settles it. These viewers are easy to handle. While that's going on, the rest of his team arrives. He grabs his greatsword as they drop in beside him. Then he starts wondering if this is even possible. What are the chances those three would show up here? It's hard to believe the same mage he killed several times, that blonde guy who worships him, and the soccer player. He wonders what that last guy is even supposed to do, kick a ball at zombies? The blonde one is thrilled to be teamed up with Sun Ji-han, and says fate brought them together, while the mage looks terrified to be in the protagonist group and thinks this is his first time seeing the last member in person. That guy is literally juggling a soccer ball. It's Diego Masid. He still can't picture how this guy is supposed to fight, but Diego was Argentina's #1 player before the regression. The protagonist thinks Diego didn't have much going for him back then, though he does have a solid build, even if the beard looks rough. Still, he starts to feel like something is off. If he's the support, Sparkler is the warrior, and the last one is the mage, then something's wrong because Diego used to be a mage before the regression, so he wonders what the hell is going on. The mage says he never expected to see Sun Xiang Jahan again, and in the end he lost a skill because of that guy. He's still furious and doesn't even want to look at him. Then a group called the Sword King's Fan Club sends an access request. He wonders why that popped up out of nowhere, and what kind of weirdo sent it. The moment he sees it, he starts wondering what the hell is happening. Then he checks the mission, destroy the crystal, and stop Sun Xiang Jihan from taking first place. The reward is 50,000 GP. So somebody really wants the protagonist to fail. The match begins, and Diego Masid kicks the ball straight into a zombie's face, and somehow it deals damage. It nearly knocks the first one over. The ball quickly flies back to him, and he traps it on his chest. Looking back, he asks the protagonist for a buff and says he needs more power. He says teamwork means everyone has to do their part. The protagonist asks about using buff skills, since he never could before because of his weak stats. But now that his divine power and strength have gone up, he decides to try and cast Energize on everyone. The buff hits them all, and the blonde guy lights up. He never thought the protagonist would actually buff him and says he really is a support. Everyone else can't believe it. The mage asks how that bastard just gave him a buff. Then the protagonist turns to him and asks if he's going to fight properly this time. The mage says yes. Obviously. The blonde guy asks if something happened between them. Are they friends? The mage, still furious, thinks that if he doesn't listen, he'll just get killed again. The protagonist says fine. He tells them to handle the top while he heads down below. All three of them are shocked, and Diego asks if he's crazy. The mage says, isn't that obvious? He adds that he seriously can't stand the guy, and asks if he looks like his damn subordinate. But then he changes his mind and decides it's better to leave him alone. He'll just watch how long the protagonist can keep doing whatever he wants, especially with that mission reward already climbing to 51,800. Then the protagonist drops right into the middle of the zombie horde. Using his fire while still in mid-air, he blasts it at them. He says his magic power got stronger after it merged into force, and adding divine power makes it even nastier. A pack of zombies means nothing to him. He fires blue flames into the crowd and says they're nothing but ragdolls to him. The blast burns them all. Still in the air, he turns, grabs his sword properly, and comes crashing down with it. The blade slams into the ground, sending out a shockwave that throws zombies everywhere. Diego thinks this Korean bronze support is insane, and seriously strong. The blonde guy asks if the stream can see this, because it's all happening live. That opening gives the protagonist room to move. As more zombies rush him, he studies the field, while the viewers keep asking where this monster came from. Then a red zombie charges at him and suddenly freezes, not understanding what just happened. The protagonist starts to smile, just as he expected. Earning this was hard, but worth it. Every zombie around him stops moving. He says space control is the true value of force, absolute dominion. Inside that zone, nobody can move freely. Anyone who enters has their actions restricted and controlled. That makes every zombie within reach an easy target. The protagonist looks like a real killer, and he says most people aren't used to this kind of power, but Seong Jihan was. He used to spar with Baron, whose control was awful compared to his raw skill. After fighting Baron over and over, he finally learned how force really worked. Then he pulls the sword out of the ground and coats the blade in holy fire. Right now, Seong Jahan is aiming to become an absolute being, someone who can use divine power and magic at the same time with martial strength to match. Bronze-level enemies can't stop him. He swings once and cuts through the zombie pack, killing many at once. With that single attack, his count reaches 124 kills so far. He says the 1,000 kills he couldn't reach before this time, he'll do it perfectly. The mission is to kill 1,000 zombies alone, and the reward is 3,000 achievement points, so he decides to move faster and charges the horde. He tears across the field, getting faster and faster. Soon he's practically a blur. He keeps wiping them out, and everyone above can only stare in disbelief. Even Diego is impressed. The viewers say it looks like he'll stay in first place, and the blonde guy says he really wants to see Jihan's status window. The mage likes the sound of that. A nasty little smile spreads across his face. He's ready to cause trouble. Loro glances back and tells the troll people want to look at him. Then he turns around. That's when he spots the mage making fire beside the crystal, and everyone starts asking what he's doing. The mage calls out to Jihan, throwing insults at him. Down below, the protagonist hears every word from far away. The mage says the protagonist is the center of attention right now, so popular he even charmed his niece. Then he pushes it further, asking Jedhan when he twisted her mind enough to make her so obsessed with him. Surrounded by zombies, the protagonist stops moving while the mage keeps asking if he's controlling her to make her obey like that. Jedhan stays silent. Then something in him shifts. He looked calm before, but not anymore. It said Gil-Hyuk earned 55,000 GP from people who hated Gil-Han, and that huge reward gave that idiot far more courage than he should have had. So he keeps shouting abuse at the protagonist below. Gil-Han thinks he already gets it, and there are only two reasons for this. Either something fired him up, or he got bold for no good reason. He decides the guy is just a pain, probably trying to mess with him and run, while using his media fame as cover. The insult about his niece keeps ringing out, and sure, trash talk is one thing, but Jihan realizes he's talking about his niece. Ever since he came back and saw Saijin again, he hasn't been able to stop remembering the past life he wants to forget, but can't. The worst part is the final memory of her hurt in his arms as he begged Seijin to wake up. After the Sword King fan club's terror attack, she was terrified, her face wrapped in bandages. Her body was cold, and that day he lost her, helpless to stop it, crying the whole time. That memory fills him with rage. He swore to himself it would never happen again. He'll protect her no matter what, and no one will touch her again. Everyone can tell things just got serious, and he decides anyone who goes after her will learn what that means. After gaining this power, he noticed something while trying to fuse the 3 elixir fields. Now he can use the nameless divine art. His martial power still isn't at 30, so he can only copy that art for a short time. Even so, he knows it's possible, because when the 3 elixirs merged into one, he felt the same thing as before using the nameless divine art, and his eyes began to shine gold. He slips into that mode at once. Zombies rush in from behind, and he channels more lightning into his feet. Then thunder bursts around him and burns the zombies away. He realizes that if he becomes lightning itself, he can reach the top of the tower in less than a second, moving through the air with lightning steps. Meanwhile, the idiot on top of the tower still thinks mouthing off was a great idea, and Loro tells him to stop. Instead, the mage throws a fireball at him, warning him not to interfere, or he'll burn him before anyone else. Loro tells everyone that if they want Jirama safe, they should support him. The mage, though, turns serious. He summons 3 circles and launches a much bigger fireball, saying goodbye to the crystal as he sends it flying toward it. But Diego blocks it with his own sphere, protecting the crystal and stopping the attack cold. His ball comes out scorched, and the mage, turning back, can't understand what's happening. Diego just stares at him with a hard look. The mage demands an answer, and Diego says he always follows the rules in his matches. He won't let someone ruin one. Then he adds that the mage insulted the one carrying the whole team and even dragged his family into it. He's not letting people like that do whatever they want. The mage gets furious and starts cursing Diego out. That's when the protagonist appears right behind him. The mage doesn't even understand what just happened, and Loro freezes in shock when the mage looks back. The protagonist is right there, saying that's fine if he wants to talk that badly, then let's talk. Face to face with death, the mage starts trembling. He can't understand how this is possible, how the protagonist got there so fast, and still tries to speak. He starts to call out to Sung Jahan, but the protagonist shuts him up with force. Just like that, using only 2 fingers. The mage tries to get words out, but the protagonist says he wanted to kill him right away, then changed his mind. He won't let him off that easily. Pain gets filtered by the connector, and killing him would only lower his level. That means from now on, he's going to teach him a few things about this new world. Then he puts a hand on the man's shoulder and says he probably knows he won't die quickly. The mage thinks he's already lost all his skills and can't do anything more. Losing his rewards hurts, sure, but at least he managed to make Jahan angry, so maybe it was worth it. Then that hand hits him with unbelievable pain, and he wonders what the hell this is. It hurts like crazy. He starts groaning, and his whole body reacts while the protagonist watches with a cold stare. Jahan asks if he's already screaming. They haven't even started yet. The mage howls and begs to be let go. He pleads with the protagonist to stop, asking if this isn't enough already, shouting for everyone to hear. Some of the viewers call Seung Jahan way too cruel, and others start agreeing. But then someone points out something strange. Normally BattleNet connectors dull pain, so why does this hurt so much? Another viewer says that Korean is a genius and tells him to look closer. The protagonist is using healing with his other hand. That's when they start to understand, and one viewer realizes it's a side effect. Everyone wonders what that even means, so he explains it simply. It's basically a bug. If healing is used while someone is taking constant damage like poison or burning, the pain gets even worse. The connector overloads and lets part of the damage through, making him feel all of it. The mage is hit by unbearable pain and screams even louder. Loro thinks it's terrifying. It must hurt insanely bad, and he can't even imagine what Jahan is doing. Jahan thinks to himself that this is displacement, a technique that breaks bones and twists muscles. It's a martial art only a few people can use, and by sending energy into an enemy's body, you can destroy them from the inside. That man is being torn apart and rebuilt in real time right in front of him. Even with a top-grade BattleNet connector that cuts pain by 95%, he still can't understand what's happening. It feels like his organs are being ripped open, or like countless needles are stabbing through his body. Instead of begging for less pain, he begs to be killed already, cursing Seung Jahan. So Jahan cuts off the mage's head with a single slash. As he dies, the mage wonders if he'll respawn there, and Loro hangs back in fear, deciding it's better not to talk to him right now. Watching all this, he indirectly learns just how terrifying Seung Jahan can be. Then the mage comes back to life and instantly starts screaming again. An older viewer even asks if this is deja vu, while the mage begs someone to save him. Now everyone is thinking the same thing. The protagonist Jahan is way too scary. The mage dies again, but this time it's from pure shock and fear. The protagonist wonders if he really couldn't endure it, and says he should control his strength better. So when the mage respawns once more, he begs Seung Jahan not to come near him, and pleads for him to stop. But the protagonist says he never should have tried this if he wasn't ready for the consequences. Then Seijin donates 10,000 RP. She begs her uncle to stop already. He's gone too far. She warns that if he keeps this up, he'll lose viewers. The chat is full of people saying they're traumatized, and that this is way too much. They just wanted to watch him do something amazing. So she tells him to focus on the game, saying things Sage is calmer than he expected. Even so, he still doesn't think it's enough. Still, he decides